it's kind of the season where people are looking at their grass, and some of their grass is not looking so good, and so they're wondering what the heck is going on. Amanda, when people have problems with their lawns and their flower beds and vegetable beds, what kinds of services does the Extension service here offer? Hi, welcome back to Marion Voices, a production of Marion Forum Group. I'm the host, Tom Tull, for today's session, and I'm interviewing Amanda Marek, who is a cooperative extension agent for this area. She works with the University of Florida plus the county and tries to help people with their questions about plants and taking care of things around the area, agricultural kinds of stuff. This, right now, it's kind of the season where people are looking at their grass, and some of their grass is not looking so good, and so they're wondering what the heck is going on, you know. So I thought I would sort of ask Amanda here about the different kinds of turf grass and some of the pros and cons of the different types and some of the diseases or ailments that we commonly see and what could be done about it. So Amanda, what kinds of turf do we have around here?
Oh goodness. So unfortunately a lot of folks miss their Kentucky bluegrass and their fescues, which don't grow here, unfortunately, but we do have some great alternatives. Primarily by seed, we have Bahia grass, centipede, and Bermuda. Those are the only three available by seed. Bahia being especially drought tolerant, and one of the more common, folks call it the pasture grass, is what you see in most of the horse farms around here. And a lot of new communities are starting to plant it more because it doesn't need as much water as the more common turf grasses, which are still St. Augustine. It's still the most commonly planted, and zoysia. The downside to those two is they are not available by seed, or at least it's not recommended, especially zoysia, so solder plugs.
Okay. And what are the, for this area, what turf seems to do the best?
It really depends on your area, and that's why we really tried to promote right plant, right place. So if you've got a lot of shade, none of our turf grasses like 24/7 shade. But some of the grasses that are more shade tolerant, centipede tends to be more shade tolerant, some varieties of St. Augustine as well, especially the dwarf varieties of St. Augustine are a lot more shade tolerant than some of our others. It also depends on how dry you are. If you are one of those sand hills, which parts of Ocala are, the Bahia would be your best bet. If you have more moist or average soils, really any of them will do fine. Zoysia, St. Augustine, Bermuda, any of the above.
Okay. I noticed in my yard, and I just live here in Ocala, I have St. Augustine, but it gets full sun in the morning and then shade in the afternoon. And that part that gets the shade is growing like crazy, where the other stuff doesn't grow quite as much.
Yeah, when it's 200 degrees in the middle of the day, everything appreciates a bit of shade, including your turf grass.
Yeah. So what are some of the diseases or ailments that we see in the grasses right now?
So it depends on the type of turf grass you have, and that's another reason we like to recommend Bahia and centipede. They don't have as many bad diseases and pest issues as some of the others. St. Augustine and zoysia, unfortunately, both can get hit really bad by chinch bugs, and we are in chinch bug season now. As soon as the temperatures get high, the chinch bugs come out of dormancy and start to munch away at our turf grasses, unfortunately. And later in the summer, we'll also start to see issues with sod webworms. And there's year-round fungal diseases as well that typically like to get really bad during the summer rainy seasons, especially if folks are overwatering.
Oh, okay. So yeah, talk about watering turf grass.
Certainly. So Marion County, we are actually have two water management districts. On one side is Southwest Florida Water Management District. On the other, on the east side of 75, is the St. John's. They both restrict us to watering no more than 2 times a week. So that's definitely a must. We always recommend for anyone never water more than twice a week. Spring is usually hot and dry. That's usually our drought season, which we've been experiencing. So spring between now and early June is a good time to water up to twice a week, but not more than that. Where folks tend to get into problems is when they overwater in the winter. Florida Friendly Landscaping, University of Florida recommends actually watering once every 2 weeks in the winter months. Now you're allowed up to one time a week, but water management districts and IFAS recommend once every 2 weeks in the winter. And that's really important for grasses like zoysia that are very prone to fungal diseases. So oftentimes this time of the year, those fungal diseases have carried on through winter, and then they show their ugly heads in the spring when things are trying to green up.
Okay. And also, when we do water turf, we should do it before the heat of the day, correct?
Yes, yeah, please don't do what I just saw some folks yesterday watering in the middle. It was like noon, 12 o'clock exactly, and their irrigation was running. So that's just a big waste. Almost all of that water is being evaporated almost immediately. So it's very wasteful. Also not allowed, again, water management districts, which are the enforcement, they say, you cannot water after 10 a.m., between the 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. hours. And that's primarily so we reduce the waste. If you do have an irrigation system and you're running it, we do recommend early morning, preferably between 3 a.m. to 8 a.m. That way your grass gets a really good thorough soaking, the sun comes up and dries it out. Watering at night's not recommended either, like 9, 10 o'clock at night, simply because you have water sitting on the leaves all night long, and that can also open you up to pest and disease problems.
Oh, okay. And also how you cut the grass is important also for lawn turf health, right?
Other than overwatering, improper mowing is a very common mistake we run into, especially bahia. It grows in clumps. It's not a very thick grass to begin with, and folks like to cut it too short, which is also called scalping. Bahia likes it high, right around 4 inches. So if you're going too fast, or your mower blades are dull, or you're mowing too short, like your mowing height's too low, it can definitely cause some scalping and dieback, and you get more weed pressure. That way, same with St. Augustine, it also likes it mowed high at 4 inches. Especially if you have a lot of shade, it's really important to mow on that upper end.
Okay. And I understand that UF has been developing some turfs that are more not monoculture, not one plant, but has a variety of stuff in it. Could you tell us about that a little bit?
Really glad you brought that up. So we have a term, if you have a yard with a lot of weeds and wildflowers, there's a name for it now to make you feel better. It's called mixed mowable lawns. That concept's been around for decades, but now we actually have a name for it. And essentially it's trying to find peace with the weeds. The weeds are not necessarily a bad thing, so trying to change that mindset with folks that the weeds are actually wildflowers. They help the pollinators as long as you're not spraying it with pesticides, and also makes for a more resilient lawn because you don't have those monocultures. So say you do have chinch bugs, it's only going to take out some of the grass and not your entire yard. Or take all root rot, which is a fungal disease. It won't take out everything. So University of Florida is experimenting and doing some trials with different varieties of grasses and also some native ground covers like frog fruit or sunshine mimosa, and incorporating those with turf grass to find a solution for us. Something that looks good, maybe not year round, but it looks good for most of the year and is friendly to wildlife and saves water.
Oh, okay. I know pesticides are used a lot all over in turf maintenance. What's kind of the downside of all the pesticide use?
There's a time and a place for pesticides. The message that University of Florida and Florida Friendly Landscaping, what we teach folks is you use pesticides if there's a need. So if you have an identified pest problem, you target that insect when it's active. So there is a time and a place to use the pesticides, but what we want folks and landscape professionals to avoid is that routine spraying of a pesticide on like a monthly timely basis, whether an insect pest is there or not. Less than 1% of all the insects in the world are actual plant pests. The majority of them are benign or beneficial. And so by overusing those pesticides, what tends to happen are a couple of different things. One is resistance. The bad guys like chinch bugs start to build up resistance to chemicals due to overuse. And then also we're killing off everything else. The microbes in the soil, the beneficial predators, those pesticides don't target just one insect, it's killing everything. So it causes multiple problems. So we really try to help folks identify the insect. They can come here to our office if they have a sample. We also offer site visits on an as-needed request, and we can go out and identify and say, yeah, you have chinch bugs, this would be a good time to spray, and this is what. It's also all about timing. A lot of pest control folks and homeowners too, once a month they'll be out there and spraying. Well, if the insect isn't there, it's not going to help. Yep. Or if the insect is still in egg form, that pesticide's not going to help either. They have to be nymphs, or at that stage they're vulnerable to the pesticide.
And I assume the more pesticide we spray, that also can leach into the groundwater.
Definitely. That's the other underlying issue. And pesticide is a generic term for any chemical. That could be fungicide, it can be insecticide, it could be miticide. And you're absolutely right. And an herbicide, if we are overusing or misusing those chemicals, they can certainly harm us and get into our water bodies and harm aquatic life as well.
Mm-hmm. And if we're trying to develop Florida-friendly landscaping or pollinator gardens, then the broad-range pesticides can just decimate your intent.
Absolutely. That's actually, other than habitat loss, overuse of pesticides those are the number 1 and 2 causes of why we've seen so much decline in not just pollinators, but insects in general, and therefore bird species as well across the globe.
Mm-hmm. Anything else we need to say about turf grass?
No, just making sure we emphasize, less is usually best, and that's in terms of fertilizer. Only fertilize if it's needed.
And what part of the fertilizer is really not good? Is it the phosphorus?
The phosphorus is one of the worst, nitrogen and phosphorus. So typically, without doing a soil analysis first, IFAS does recommend using little to no phosphorus. It's typically not needed, especially in the soils that we have.
Amanda, when people have problems with their lawns and their flower beds and vegetable beds, what kinds of services does the Extension service here offer?
Perfect. Yeah, so we are an extension of the University of Florida. We offer typically free services to Marion County residents, and if any of y'all are outside of Marion County, there is an office in every county of the state. We will typically try to do triage over the phone first. So if you're having a problem, there's 415,000 people in Marion County. It's a large county. So if you are having a problem, please start with a phone call or emailing us. Pictures are wonderful. Or bringing in living samples. We can't tell much from a dead sample, but bring in samples, and the agents such as myself, the Master Gardener Plant Clinic, we will try our best to figure out what is going on, and we'll kind of act like doctors. We'll ask you a series of questions trying to get down to what is the actual cause and what's been going on. If we can't figure it out that way, then the agents, each one of us offers site visits or yard evaluations, and we can go out in the field, in your yard, and really try to narrow down what is actually going on. It's no charge for us to come out. The only time there would be a charge is if we cannot figure things out. We can help you figure out how to send samples to the Plant Diagnostic Center or to the Soils Lab, and there are minor charges for those labs, but otherwise there's no charge for us to come out.
And those are at the University of Florida campus, right?
Correct.
In Gainesville.
Correct, right on in Gainesville, yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Absolutely.